Admiral Kexvar pressed his face against the cold metal of the viewing window. 3 floors below him, 3 human prisoners walked across the gray execution chamber. Their hands were tied behind their backs with thick metal chains. Their feet made soft sounds on the hard floor. The humans did not cry. They did not beg. They did not try to run away. This made Kexvar feel strange inside his chest. In all his years as a soldier, he had never seen prisoners walk to their death so calmly. Captain Mordin stood next to him. His green skin looked pale under the bright lights. "Sir, why don't we ask them questions first? These humans might know where their ships are hiding. They might tell us about their weapons." Kexvar kept watching the humans below. The youngest one was a woman with short black hair. She looked up at the viewing window and smiled. Not a mean smile or a sad smile. Just a normal, friendly smile like she was greeting a neighbor. This made Kexvar step back from the window. "Execute the protocol, Captain," he said in a low voice. "But sir, think about what we could learn from them. The war has been going on for 3 years now. We need to know how they fight so well. How do they always know where our ships will be? How do they make our soldiers want to help them instead of fighting them?" Kexvar turned to look at his captain. Mordin was young, maybe only 40 years old. His scales were still bright green, not the dark color that came with age and worry. He had not lived through the early days of the war. He did not know. "Captain Mordin, how long have you served under me?" 2 years, sir." "And in those 2 years, have I ever given you an order that was wrong?" Mordin thought for a moment. "No, sir. You have always been right." "Then trust me now. Execute the protocol." Below them, the execution team was getting ready. Soldiers in heavy armor pointed their energy weapons at the 3 humans. The weapons hummed with power. Red lights blinked on the sides. The human woman was talking to the man next to her. Kexvar could not hear the words through the thick glass, but he could see her lips moving. Whatever she was saying made the man laugh a little. Even here, even now, they were finding something to be happy about. "Ready to fire?" came the voice through the speaker. Mordin looked at his admiral. "Sir, please. Just 5 minutes. Let me talk to them for 5 minutes. What harm could it do?" The question hit Kexvar like a punch to the stomach. What harm could it do? If only his captain knew. If only he understood what those simple words had cost their empire. "Fire," Kexvar said into his communicator. 3 bright beams of light shot across the chamber. The humans fell to the floor. Their bodies did not move anymore. It was over in less than 2 seconds. The cleanup team entered the chamber. They would take the bodies away and burn them. Nothing would be left behind. No clothes, no personal items, no trace that these humans had ever existed. Mordin stared at the empty chamber. "I still don't understand, sir. We just killed 3 people who might have helped us win the war faster." Kexvar was quiet for a long time. Then he turned away from the window and began walking toward the exit. "Come with me, Captain." They walked through the long hallways of the ship. Other soldiers stepped aside and saluted as they passed. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. They reached Kexvar's private office. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Kexvar sat down at his desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a thick book with a red cover. "This is my personal log from 20 years ago," he said. "Before you were even in the military. Before we learned what humans really are." He opened the book and found a page near the middle. "Here. This is from the day we captured our first human prisoner. His name was Wubin. He was 23 years old. He worked on a farm on one of their colony planets." Mordin sat down across from the desk. "What happened to him?" Commander Velox decided to question him. "Just like you wanted to question these 3 today." Velox was a good soldier. He had served the Empire for 30 years. He was loyal. He followed orders. He never asked questions about what he was told to do. Kexvar turned the page. After 1 week of talking to the human, Velox started asking strange questions. Why were we fighting this war? What would happen to human children when we won? Did our empire really need all these planets? That doesn't sound so bad, sir. By the end of the 2nd week, 3 guards had left their posts to help human prisoners escape. 2 officers had sent secret messages to human ships, warning them about our attacks. And Velox himself had started planning to defect to the human side. Mordin's eyes grew wide. From just talking to 1 prisoner? 1 prisoner. 1 farm worker who grew vegetables for a living. Kexvar closed the book. "We learned something terrible about humans that day, Captain. They don't fight us with better weapons or smarter tactics. They fight us with something much more dangerous." "What?" "Hope. They make us hope for something better than what we have. They make us believe we can choose a different life. And once a soldier starts believing he has choices, he stops being a good soldier. Kexvar stood up and walked to the small window in his office. Outside, stars moved slowly past as the ship traveled through space. The protocol exists because talking to humans is more dangerous than fighting them in battle. In battle, we might lose ships or soldiers. But when we talk to them, we lose something much worse. We lose our certainty that what we're doing is right. 20 years earlier, Commander Velox walked down the metal hallway toward the prison cells. His boots made loud sounds on the floor. He was excited. Today was the day he would question their first human prisoner. The war had been going on for only 6 months. The humans were fighting harder than anyone expected. Their ships were smaller and weaker, but somehow they kept winning battles. They seemed to know exactly where to attack and when to retreat. Velox needed answers. He needed to understand how these strange creatures thought. The prison cell was small and gray. There was a bed, a toilet, and a small table. Sitting at the table was a young human man. He had dark hair and was wearing a blue work uniform. He looked up when Velox entered. "Hello," the human said. "My name is Wu Bin." Velox was surprised. Prisoners usually did not introduce themselves. They usually looked afraid or angry. This human looked curious, like he was meeting a new friend. "I am Commander Velox. You are my prisoner." "Nice to meet you, Commander Velox. That's an interesting name. What does it mean?" No prisoner had ever asked Velox about his name before. "It means swift strike in our language." "That sounds like a warrior's name. Your parents must have known you would be strong." Wu Bin smiled. "Did you always want to be a soldier?" Velox found himself sitting down at the small table. This was not how interrogations usually went. He was supposed to ask the questions, not answer them. "I was chosen for the military when I was young." "All strong children are chosen." "Chosen? You mean you didn't get to decide?" The question made Velox feel strange. Decide? Why would anyone need to decide? The Empire chose what was best for everyone. "The Empire knows what is best for its people," he said. "I see. That must make life simple. Someone else makes all the hard choices for you." Wu Bin leaned forward. "But don't you ever wonder what you might have chosen if you could pick anything?" Velox stared at the human. No one had ever asked him such a question. What would he have chosen? He tried to remember being young before the military training began. He remembered liking to build things with his hands. He remembered being fascinated by the way plants grew. I might have been an engineer. Or maybe worked with growing food. Those are wonderful jobs. Creating things instead of destroying them. Wu Bin's eyes were kind. "Do you miss that? The feeling of making something new?" That night, Velox lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. He could not stop thinking about Wu Bin's question. When was the last time he had created something? When was the last time he had felt proud of building rather than breaking? The next day he returned to the prison cell. "Good morning, Commander," Wu Bin said. "How did you sleep?" "Fine." Velox sat down. "I came here to ask you about human military positions. I told you yesterday I'm just a farmer. I grow vegetables on Kepler Colony. I don't know anything about military secrets." Wu Bin paused. "But I'm happy to tell you about farming if you want to know." "Farming?" "Yes. I grow tomatoes and corn and beans. It's wonderful work. You plant a tiny seed and watch it grow into something that can feed people." Wu Bin's face lit up. "Have you ever grown anything, Commander?" Velox thought about his childhood again. "When I was very young, I had a small garden behind our family home. I grew purple flowers that smelled sweet. You remember what they smelled like?" "Yes. Like sunshine after rain." "That's beautiful. Do you think you could grow flowers again if you wanted to?" "I am a military commander. I do not have time for flowers." "Of course not now. But maybe someday when the war is over. You could have a garden again." Velox had never thought about what would happen after the war. Soldiers fought until they died or became too old to fight. There was no after in a soldier's life. "What do you mean?" "Well, wars don't last forever. Someday there will be peace. People will need to rebuild. They will need engineers and farmers and teachers. They will need people who know how to create beautiful things." Over the following weeks, Velox found himself visiting the prison cell every day. Not to interrogate Wu Bin but to talk. Wu Bin asked about Velox's family, his dreams, his fears. He listened to every answer like it was the most important thing in the world. Wu Bin told stories about his life on the farm. He talked about the satisfaction of harvesting crops he had planted months before. He described the joy of feeding families with food he had grown with his own hands. "You know," Wu Bin said one day, "you could choose to stop fighting. You could choose peace. I cannot abandon my duty. What if your duty is wrong? What if there was a better way to live? The question followed Velox everywhere. During meetings with other officers, he found himself wondering why they were fighting this war. During battle planning sessions, he thought about the human families who would suffer if their attacks succeeded. One night, he made a decision that would change everything. He sent a secret message to the human resistance, warning them about a planned attack on a civilian transport ship. 300 human families lived because of that message. 2 weeks later, Guard Captain Thex noticed the commander's strange behavior and began asking questions. Soon, Thex was also visiting the human prisoner. Then Lieutenant Zekmar started going to the prison cell during his breaks. Within a month, half the ship's officers were having quiet conversations about the war, about choices, about what kind of life they really wanted to live. The infection was spreading. Guard Captain Thex had been watching Commander Velox for 3 weeks now. Something was wrong with his commander, but he could not figure out what. Velox used to be hard and cold like a good military officer should be. He gave orders without explaining them. He punished soldiers who made mistakes. He never questioned the Empire's decisions. But now Velox was different. Yesterday, he had stopped a punishment because he said it was too cruel. Last week, he had asked the medical team to treat wounded human prisoners instead of letting them die. This morning, he had spent 10 minutes talking to a young soldier who was homesick. Thex decided to follow his commander. He watched Velox walk down to the prison level. This was strange. Commanders did not visit prisoners every day. Interrogations happened once or twice, then the prisoners were either executed or sent to work camps. Thex hid around a corner and listened. Good morning, Wubin. How are you feeling today? Much better, thank you. The medicine your doctor gave me helped a lot. The human's voice was warm and friendly. How are you doing, Commander? You look tired. I did not sleep well. I keep thinking about what you said yesterday. About having choices? Yes. I never thought about it before. I always believed the Empire knew what was best. Thex was shocked. A commander was discussing Empire policy with a prisoner? This was against every rule in the military handbook. The Empire is made of people just like you, the human said. People make mistakes sometimes. Even good people. Maybe the people making decisions about this war have never seen what war really does to families. What do you mean? Have you ever been to a planet right after a battle? Have you seen the children crying for their parents? The old people who lost their homes? The farms burned to nothing? There was silence for a long moment. No, Velox said quietly. I only see the reports. Numbers of ships destroyed, territories captured. Numbers don't show the real cost, do they? Each number represents someone's father, mother, child. Thex felt his chest tighten. He thought about his own 3 children back home. What if enemy soldiers came to his planet? What if his children had to cry for him? After Velox left, Thex found himself walking toward the prison cell. He told himself he was just checking on security. But when he reached the cell, he stopped and looked at the human prisoner. Wubin was sitting at the small table, drawing something on a piece of paper with a pencil someone had given him. He looked up and smiled. Hello. You must be Captain Thex. Commander Velox told me about you. He told you about me? He said you have 3 children and that you're very proud of them. He said you joined the military to protect your family. Thex was surprised. When had Velox learned so much about his personal life? What are you drawing? Thex asked. Wubin held up the paper. It was a picture of a small house with a garden around it. Children were playing in the yard while adults worked among the plants. It's my family's farm. I miss it. Wubin looked at the drawing with sad eyes. Do you miss your family when you're away fighting? Of course I do. What do you miss most about them? Thex found himself sitting down. I miss reading bedtime stories to my youngest daughter. She always asks me to read the same story about a brave little bird who learns to fly. That sounds wonderful. She must feel so safe and happy when you read to her. Yes, she does. Thex smiled, remembering. She falls asleep holding my hand. That's a beautiful memory. You must want to make sure she always feels that safe. I do. That's why I fight. To protect her world. Wubin was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, do you think the human children on the planets we attack feel safe when our ships arrive? The question hit Thex like a physical blow. He had never thought about enemy children being afraid. He had never imagined human parents trying to comfort scared children while bombs fell around them. I don't know. They're probably just like your daughter. They want their parents to read them stories and hold their hands. They want to feel safe. That night, Thex could not eat his dinner. He kept thinking about frightened children on distant planets. Were there little girls like his daughter hiding in basements while his ships attacked from space? The next day, Lieutenant Zekmar noticed that Captain Thex seemed upset. "Are you feeling sick, Captain?" "I'm fine. Just thinking about some things." "What kind of things?" Thex looked around to make sure no one else could hear. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing in this war?" Zekmar was shocked. Officers did not question the war. "Captain, that's dangerous talk." "I know. But I can't stop thinking about it." Thex paused. "Have you ever talked to the human prisoner?" "No. Why would I?" "Maybe you should. Just once." 2 days later, Zekmar found himself standing outside the prison cell. He told himself he was just curious. The human looked up from his book and smiled. "You must be Lieutenant Zekmar." "I'm Wu Bin." And so it began again. The same gentle questions. The same kind listening. The same slow awakening of doubt and hope. Within a month, the infection had spread through half the ship. Officers questioned orders before following them. Soldiers helped wounded enemies instead of leaving them to die. Guards forgot to lock certain doors, allowing prisoners to escape. The ship's loyalty reports, sent to high command every week, began to show disturbing patterns. Morale was high, but obedience was dropping. Soldiers were thinking too much and following orders too little. Admiral Kexvar, then just a junior officer, watched it all happen with growing horror. One human prisoner was destroying military discipline across an entire fleet. The contagion was spreading faster than anyone had imagined possible. Junior Officer Kexvar stood in the command center watching the reports come in from across the galaxy. Each report told the same terrible story. Every ship that had captured human prisoners alive was having the same problems. The numbers were frightening. In the past 6 months, over 200 officers had defected to the human side. 3 entire battle groups had refused to attack civilian targets. 12 ships had secretly warned humans about planned attacks. Fleet Admiral Torvex called an emergency meeting. All senior staff gathered in the large conference room. The walls were covered with star maps showing red marks where their forces were failing. "Gentlemen," the Admiral began, "we are losing this war. But not in the way we expected." He pressed a button and the main screen showed a list of numbers. "These are our losses from enemy weapons. 53 ships destroyed, 8,000 soldiers killed." He pressed another button. "These are our losses from other causes. 300 ships defected, 50,000 soldiers joined the enemy." The room was silent. "How is this possible?" asked Commander Nextar. "Our soldiers are trained from birth to be loyal. Our officers swear sacred oaths to serve the Empire until death." Admiral Torvex looked tired. "That is what we need to understand. Military psychologist Zarhex has been studying this problem. She will explain what we are facing." Dr. Zarhex was a small female with gray scales and intelligent eyes. She had spent her whole life studying how minds worked. She stood up and walked to the front of the room. "What I am about to tell you will sound impossible," she said. "But I have tested it many times. The humans have a weapon more dangerous than any bomb or energy beam. They have the ability to change how other people think." "That's ridiculous," said Commander Nextar. "No one can force another person to think differently." "You're right. They cannot force anyone. That is what makes them so dangerous. They do not force. They do not threaten. They do not use tricks or lies." Dr. Zarhex paused. "They simply talk." She pressed a button and audio recordings began to play. It was the voice of Wu Bin, the human prisoner, talking to Commander Velox. "Have you ever grown anything, Commander? When I was very young, I had a small garden behind our family home. You remember what they smelled like?" "Yes. Like sunshine after rain." "That's beautiful. Do you think you could grow flowers again if you wanted to?" Dr. Zarhex stopped the recording. "Listen to what the human is doing. He is not arguing with the commander. He is not telling him that war is wrong. He is simply asking questions and listening to the answers." "So what?" asked another officer. "Questions are not weapons. These questions are. Watch what happens to our soldiers' brains when humans talk to them." She showed brain scans on the screen. The red areas show brain activity. This is a normal soldier's brain when following orders. See how only the obedience centers are active. The scans showed small red dots in specific areas. Now look at the same soldier's brain after talking to a human prisoner for 1 week. The new scans were completely different. Red areas covered much more of the brain. The humans activate the parts of the brain that we spend years training our soldiers to ignore. They wake up creativity, curiosity, and individual thinking. They make our soldiers remember that they are people, not just weapons. Kexvar raised his hand. But why does this work? Why are humans so good at this? Dr. Zarhek smiled sadly. Because they do it naturally. It is not a weapon to them. It is simply how they treat other living beings. Humans are curious about everyone they meet. They want to understand how others think and feel. They see each person as unique and interesting. You mean they do this by accident? Exactly. A human prisoner does not plan to convert our soldiers. He simply treats them like people worth knowing. He asks about their families, their dreams, their fears. He listens to their answers like they matter. And for soldiers who have spent their whole lives being told what to think, this attention is intoxicating. The room was quiet as everyone thought about this. There is more, Dr. Zarhex continued. Humans have something they call empathy. They can understand and share the feelings of others, even their enemies. When a human looks at one of our soldiers, he does not see a faceless enemy. He sees a person who might be lonely, scared, or confused. He responds to that person's real needs, not their uniform or rank. Admiral Torvex leaned forward. How do we fight this? We cannot. This is not a weapon we can build or a skill we can learn. The humans have evolved this ability over thousands of years. It is part of who they are. Dr. Zarhex looked around the room. Every human is born with the natural ability to make others feel understood and valued. They do not know they are doing it. Commander Nextar shook his head. Then how do we win this war? There is only one way, Dr. Zarhex said quietly. We never let our soldiers talk to human prisoners. Ever. We execute them immediately upon capture. That seems extreme. The alternative is losing our entire military to defection. One human prisoner can destroy the loyalty of an entire ship. A single conversation can turn a 30-year veteran into a rebel. Kexvar felt cold inside his chest. You're saying that talking to humans is more dangerous than fighting them? Much more dangerous. In battle we might lose ships or soldiers. But when we talk to them we lose something that can never be replaced. What? Our certainty that what we are doing is right. Captain Mordin walked through the damaged enemy ship slowly. His soldiers had already searched most of the vessel. They found weapons, computers, and supplies but no living prisoners. That was good. It meant he would not have to use the execution protocol today. But as he reached the medical bay he heard a soft sound. Someone was breathing behind one of the broken walls. Mordin pulled away the metal pieces and found a small room with medical equipment. On a bed inside lay a young human woman. She was unconscious but alive. Her name tag said, Sora Kim Medical Officer. Mordin's heart sank. He would have to call the execution team. He activated his communicator. Admiral Kexvar, we have found a human survivor. Execute the protocol immediately, came the quick reply. Yes, sir. But as Mordin waited for the execution team to arrive, the human woman opened her eyes. She looked around the small room, then at Mordin. Instead of fear, her face showed confusion. Where am I? She asked softly. You are on your ship. It was damaged in battle. You are my prisoner. Oh. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. Are you hurt? You look worried about something. The question surprised Mordin. She was the prisoner but she was asking if he was hurt. I'm fine. The execution team will be here soon. Execution? Sora looked sad but not afraid. I see. Well, thank you for waiting with me. It must be hard for you to have to do this. Mordin stared at her. In all his years as a soldier, no prisoner had ever thanked him or worried about his feelings. It is my duty, he said. Of course. You have to follow orders. Sora managed to sit up on the bed. What is your name? Captain Mordin. That's a strong name. Do you have family, Captain Mordin? The question made him think of home. I have a mate and 2 children. That's wonderful. How old are your children? My son is 12. My daughter is 8. Those are good ages. They must be proud of their father. Sora smiled weakly. What do they want to be when they grow up? Mordin found himself answering. My son wants to be an engineer. He likes to build things with his hands. My daughter wants to be a teacher. She is always helping other children learn new things. They sound like amazing children. You must love them very much. I do. I bet they love you too. Children always know when their parents truly care about them. Mordin felt something strange in his chest. This human was about to die but she was asking about his family like she really cared about them. Why do you ask these questions? He said. Because you seem like a good person. Good people usually have families they love. Sora looked at him with kind eyes. And because these might be the last few minutes of my life. I would rather spend them learning about someone good than being afraid. The execution team arrived before Mordin could respond. 3 soldiers in heavy armor entered the medical bay. "Where is the prisoner?" asked Sergeant Colvin. Mordin pointed to Sora. "She is here." The soldiers raised their weapons. Sora closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Wait," Mordin said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. "Sir?" asked Sergeant Colvin. Mordin looked at Sora. She had opened her eyes and was watching him with no anger or hate, just understanding. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "You always have a choice." The words hit Mordin like lightning. He thought about his son who wanted to build things instead of destroy them. His daughter who wanted to teach instead of fight. What kind of world was he creating for them? "Captain," Sergeant Colvin said, "we need to complete the execution." Mordin's hand moved toward the activation switch for the execution chamber. But he could not press it. He kept thinking about what Sora had said. He had a choice. "Stand down," he ordered. "Sir?" "I said stand down. Lower your weapons." The soldiers looked confused but obeyed. At that moment, Admiral Kexvar entered the medical bay. His old eyes took in the scene quickly. "Captain Mordin, step away from the prisoner." "Sir, I cannot execute her." "I understand," Kexvar said quietly. He looked at Sora with tired respect. 20 years ago, I made the same choice." Mordin was shocked. "You did?" "The human prisoner who started it all. Ubin. I was the one who finally decided to let him go instead of executing him." Kexvar walked to the weapon controls and turned them off. "He asked me the same question this woman just asked you. He reminded me that I had a choice." "What happened to him?" "He went back to his farm. He sent me pictures sometimes of the vegetables he grew. He got married and had children. He lived a peaceful life." Kexvar opened the prison restraints around Sora. "The humans taught us something important that day." "What?" "That their greatest weapon isn't what they do to us. It's what they help us remember about ourselves." Kexvar helped Sora stand up. "They remind us that we are more than just soldiers. That we can choose to create instead of destroy. That we can choose love instead of fear." Sora stood between them, free but not running away. "Thank you both," she said. "But you know this means you'll be in trouble with your leaders." Kexvar smiled for the first time in years. "Perhaps it's time we stopped being afraid of hope." The war ended 3 months later, not with a great battle, but with a simple message sent throughout the galaxy: all soldiers have the right to choose peace. The humans had won their ultimate victory.